Hey, it's Adam Zdroik of RotoWire Soccer. I'm going over Premier League futures. I got a few bets. We're in the middle. We're in the national break between game week 3 and game week 4. Decided to look at a few things just to get some numbers on the board here. Looking at some team futures and a player future to end things up. Here's the table over at RotoWire. You can check it out, rotowire.com/soccer. Aston Villa is a team I want to look at here. Currently, they got the win, they got the loss against Arsenal, where that match was pretty even. But I think it's been an impressive start for Aston Villa, getting wins where you're supposed to get wins. And heading in the Champions League, I had some initial doubts of just what this team could do. But as we get into it, we look at the depth of this team a lot more than last season to a certain extent. To a certain extent, Leon Bailey just got injured his hamstring just before the break. So that's a question right there. But it seems like John Duran is he's staying at Villa for the time being. But throw in John Duran. Philogен's added as well. Morgan Rogers has gone 90s in each of the first 3 matches. So then you have less of a role for John McGinn, which is nice going into more matches. You have these UEFA matches now. Boubacar Kamara will be back at some point. He's coming back from a torn ACL. He's going to be back in the next couple months. So Amadou Onana has played well as the new signing in the midfield. Jacob Ramsey still hasn't started. Ross Barkley and Buendia just got a bit of run with, I think, the U21s earlier in the week. So you got all these guys, and then you throw in Diego Carlos, Tyrone Mings. Neither one of those guys has played yet for the back line. So just in terms of depth, you have more depth. You have Champions League started, and you got these 8 Champions League matches in the group phase here, in the opening phase. But I think their depth combined with Unai Emery is kind of what separates them from some of these other teams. If we're looking at the table right now, the other teams in terms of the odds, I should say Aston Villa are plus 110 to finish top 6. That is the bet. And I think if you look after the top 3 teams in the league, Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester City, I think if you look past them, it's kind of just a jumble of teams that I'm not sure anyone stands out. So if we're getting plus odds on the top 6 finish, I think that's a pretty good move here. So in terms of otherwise in the top 6, Chelsea are minus 175, Tottenham minus 165. Newcastle minus 165. Then you have Villa at plus 110, Manchester United plus 120. Those are the odds for the top 6. But I think, okay, so you have Tottenham, Chelsea, Newcastle. I don't think any one of those teams stand out in terms of, being better than any of the others. So I'll go with Aston Villa plus 110. The next one I have here is Brentford to finish in the top half. They had a little bit of an easier schedule. They got a couple wins. Again, similar to Aston Villa, they got the wins where they're supposed to win. They're in the top half. They are plus 275 to finish in the top half. When looking at this, you have to decide, okay, like who are they going to finish above? And I think the problem as we get into it, okay, we have kind of the top 8 teams. However you want to look at it, if you want to consider Manchester United a top 8 team, you can go there. But Brighton and West Ham are the real questions. I've been impressed by Brighton in the early season, and I'm not going to bet against them to finish in the bottom half. And then West Ham is probably going to be the main competition here for the 10th spot, or if they really get going under Lopetegui, then maybe that's not going to be the competition. But West Ham are minus 140 to finish in the top 10. They added a lot of players, and that's yet to come to fruition. All of their ads, Guido Rodriguez, I think, has started every league match. Aaron Wan-Bissaka started just before the break. We'll see if it eventually works for him. I haven't been impressed by them in the early season. It's only been 3 matches. There's a long way to go. But I just think that the value you're getting here on Brentford at plus 275 is a little too hard to pass up here. Ahead of them, in terms of odds, Bournemouth are plus 170. Crystal Palace are plus 200. I actually think Brentford are going to finish above both of them in the table. Well, I think Brentford are probably going to be in that 11th spot. I think that plus 275 is worth it to have a chance to finish in the top half. Ivan Toney's gone. They played without him most of last season. Johan Wissa is still there. Brian Mbomo is still there. Kevin Shada is healthy. Keen Lewis Potter is healthy as well. So they have all these other options. They also added Thiago. He's going to be back from his injury in a couple months. They have these attacking options. They beefed up their back line. They're getting Rico Henry back in the next few weeks, hopefully from his torn ACL. Missed almost all of last season. So they have a pretty decent squad. As long as there's no more, massive injuries happening for Brentford, I think they're in a pretty decent spot here to grab them plus 275. And to be relegated, I like this before the season, and I think the odds have gone down a little bit here. I think it was plus before the season, but we're still getting minus 115 for Ipswich Town to be relegated. Just seems too good to pass up. I know Ipswich have had a really difficult schedule to start the season, but through all the players they've added and for how their team looks, I'm just not sure they fully have it. Maybe Kieran McKenna. I feel like McKenna is getting the manager bump here in the odds at minus 115 to be relegated. It just seems like overall they're still lacking a bit. I know they added, guys like Bene. They got Hutchinson and Delop in the attack, Smodix, Jack Clark, Calvin Phillips in the midfield. They had a couple center backs, Ben Johnson at right back. They have new guys all across the pitch, but are they going to put it together? That's kind of the question. And then you have the fact that, okay, this team was promoted back-to-back season. It's just a difficult spot. I'm kind of surprised at the minus 115 odds, especially given that Leicester are not getting any the deduction in their point total. So you also throw that in there. So I think that I don't think Ipswich is separated by any means over Southampton, who is minus 190 to be relegated, and Leicester City minus 175 to be relegated. I don't think there's a difference between those teams. So why are we getting Ipswich minus 115 to be relegated? As I said, it was better odds before the season, but we're still at minus 115. We haven't really seen much. They got a point against Fulham, but okay, home against Fulham. Fulham, I think, could be one of those teams that finishes bottom 5 maybe. So, okay, they get a point home against Fulham. Where else are they going to get points from? Home against Southampton and home against Leicester? Okay, so, that's just not going to be enough. So, minus 115, I like those odds. And then just before jumping on, one thing that stood out to me in terms of odds for a player future, I like Alisson here, plus 450. He's already on 3 clean sheet odds. I should mention this is a Golden Glove. This is for the Golden Glove. David Raya is plus 160. Ederson plus 400. But Alisson is plus 450. Overall, I think Arsenal's back line is a little better, but we've seen the Arnie slot ball. We've seen how they played. Already with all these clean sheets, a little safer, a little slower pace, a little less frantic, maybe not a little, a lot less frantic than the Jurgen Klopp days. But to get Alisson right now at plus 450, he already has one more clean sheet than Raya does after what happened in the Brighton match. I just think the odds are good here. I just think the odds are good. Okay, we know about Manchester City, but it seems like every other game against one of these teams, one of these random teams, that they're just going to allow a goal off the counter. Maybe that's going to eventually happen to Liverpool, but 3 straight clean sheets to start things off. Maybe a little recency bias on my end, but I just think the odds are pretty good here in Alisson. I feel like we should be getting, maybe drop that down to like plus 300. Raya maybe a little higher up to plus 200, plus 230 kind of a thing. I think Alisson should have better odds than Ederson, but Alisson plus 450 right now, Ederson plus 400, finish with the Golden Glove. This is just taking a shot on Liverpool and thinking that they can continue how they've started the season. So that's what this bet is on. But those are my best futures here over the international break. You can find me at RotoZdroik on Twitter or RotoWire Soccer at RotoWire Soccer. Thank you for watching this. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to our podcast. Make sure to check out RotoWire, rotowire.com/soccer trial. That is a 48-hour trial over there.